As usual. Sure.
Do that too.
Hello, friends and brothers. Glad to see you. Glad you're
Awesome.
here.
I think we're good.
Welcome to our live.
We already got Oscar Cordova and David Lawson in here. I hear Oscar had a pretty big weekend.
He did, man. He made it. He's 32nd.
Awesome.
He brought his lovely wife to the cathedral to see his capping, and the poor sucker asked me to cap him. But I tell you what, man, that was a true honor, and I appreciate that opportunity. I really do.
Man, you outrank me now, Oscar. Congratulations. You'll be 33rd before you know it.
I don't know about that. It takes a while. It takes a minute.
Like a year? 2 years?
Oh no, no.
3 years?
Mm-mm. The Hidden Commandery.
Would you say 10 years?
No,
Is
not for a white hat.
is 15 years possible?
Hmm.
What about 20, Dennis? Would 20 years be enough?
I said yes. At
Okay.
15,
I didn't hear you. uh,
those what a lot of people don't realize, and I know for certain there was a lot of them passed out in the 80s that were just passed out without good justification. But today,
we don't do that
it's
in
a
Phoenix.
it's
I
a
mean, what are you
different.
talking about?
Yeah,
We don't
right.
just give things away.
Today, well, we don't in San Antonio. How we do it here. But yeah, but now it is back to how it's supposed to be, and you really have to earn it to get that recognition. And starts with the red hat, and then it goes to the white hat. So
What's the red hat?
uh, um, that's the KCCH.
And that's the St. Andrew? Or what's
No,
KCCH?
KCC8 is Knights Court of Honor, something Court of Honor. Golly, I
Is
can't
that
believe I just
32nd or is it like a.
brain farted.
So wait, because I don't
It's
understand.
still a 30 second. It's still a 30-second degree mason.
It's like an
And
honor
but
honor for 32nd degrees?
right,
And then if you.
when you're red hat, that means that you're one of the workers. You're one of the ones who really get stuff done for the valley. You give your all for the valley,
Hmm,
and it's a timely process to get that. I mean, some people have gotten them in the past right out of the gate because of bad judgment on the part of leadership at the time, but now it's done correctly, and you don't just get it for no reason.
got you.
And then the white hat is even more of a big deal, and it's got it, and they both have honorary degrees with them that are associated um with those hats.
Got you.
But it's all about service. Scottish Rite is it really is an educational and working um appendant body. It's you really, if you really want to get all everything out of Scottish Rite, you really have to commit yourself to educating yourself, and you have to commit yourself to giving of yourself to your brothers in your valley.
Got it.
If you're not willing to do that, if you don't think you have the time for Blue Lodge, much less helping out your appendant body, then you won't get those honors.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, no one should really expect things just to be handed to them, right?
Right.
Just resizing here, we're off a little bit. But that applies to Blue
No
Lodge and
worries.
everything too. It's a
Right, it does apply.
it's kind of a peeve of mine, and there's no, like, I don't have like a agenda against anyone that has gotten in the past, so don't mistake me. But like these Golden Trial Awards and the similar awards we have in York, right? They're given
Right.
away way too frivolously. Like I've
Yeah.
I've been to some lodges where they give a golden trial away every year, and they're small. They're small lodges.
Right. Right.
If everybody has a golden trial, it has no value, right? If everybody's a past master, there's no value in that, right?
Right.
I remember when
I agree.
when I was a new Mason, and I was told someone was a Warshal master and a past Warshal master. You know, I was like, whoa, they're the real deal, man. Until I had been doing it for a while, and I realized, hey, everybody that has been active for a while is past master, right? So it kind of takes away from the
honor.
The honor, yeah.
And the dignity.
Yep. Bearded Bacon's here. Hey, brethren. Apparently, somebody received Oscar Cordova as Master of the Royal Secret. Raisin Jockenberg. Raisin Jockenberg. So
he only did that because the actual head of the body was gone, and he was the next one that was actually present to be able to do it.
Got it.
Because we were on a skeleton crew for sure this past weekend, because our reunion was thrown off. It was moved a month out, and so other people, we usually do it in May, and people schedule their vacations during June and July.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we got pushed out to June for, you know, reasons. I'll just say that. I don't want to go into that. But it caused a big hiccup in our system. But ask Oscar. I mean, it turned out pretty damn good. We had a very successful weekend, in my opinion.
I thought you said you had 95% of your workers show up.
That's Night of St. Andrews.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, that's the difference. Knights of St. Andrew, it's the leadership focused group of the Valley that, you know, we don't just let anybody in. It's invitation only. You have to earn it before you get there, and we're not going to tell you we're watching. We're just watching.
That's
why I'm against the Squire program that they're wanting to reinstate in our Valley, but I don't want to do that, because then you're telling somebody that you're watching them, so of course they're going to be on their best behavior.
What is this?
I don't want to do
program?
That's to where you aren't an official Knights of St. Andrew person, but you work with the Knights of St. Andrew. You commit to work with the KSA.
See.
In hopes that you'll become Knights of St. Andrew. But I don't agree with it, because, you know, what we do now is perfect. We watch the workers. We watch the craft. We pay attention, and we pick the ones that we think are the right ones to come in. And with that, we get that 95% participation.
It's good. I like it. Yeah, speaking of vacations, I'll probably be out most of next week. First part next week. Going to Oklahoma with my family. It's not probably like a vacation like you would take, like going to the coast or something. It's kind of the opposite of the coast. It's Oklahoma, but
I love it. Anywhere gone is gone, man. That's
vacation. Yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking. Just get out for a while. Just go out.
Yeah, do something fun and
stuff in Tulsa, I think, and places like that. So I'm just gonna go take pictures of the lodges, honestly. See if I find the Grand Lodge and take a picture of that. But we'll do other stuff too. It'll be fun.
My first water slide ever was in Oklahoma. It was I say big, but not to today's standards. But at that time, it was big. It was like the equivalent of 3 of those wavy ones you see at the carnival. Mm-hmm. It was like 3 of those put together, and they were made into the side of this mountain, and it's just straight down. And man, it was the best time of my life when I was, I guess, 5 or 6. Man, that was awesome. I'll always remember it.
Was it Oklahoma where there was a water slide and the kid had the accident and it killed him? You remember hearing about that?
I don't know.
It was like I think it was like a Schlitterbahn up in Oklahoma, and it was like you're talking about, like it went down real far, then it went up, and kind of looped. But when they were testing it, a lot of the rafts would go airborne at that first hump. so they put netting over
Right.
it, and it was actually one of their state representatives, like their son. He was like 10. It's really sad. Like they went up and it caught him right there and decapitated
Oh
him.
no.
And like I saw pictures of the slide, like the water slide. It's just red, like the whole thing's just red with blood. It was awful.
Oh
So
my goodness.
yeah, it's scary stuff.
Man, what a Debbie Downer. I don't like to see that kind of stuff.
I don't either. I don't like that kind of stuff. Um. Oh, Jason Rockenberg says that 5% that didn't show up of your nights is going to get a talking to. So
Yeah, and there's one at least that's going to be relieved of his duties.
uh-oh. Bearded Bacon says he's going to Lubbock next week. A longtime friend is taking his EA degree on the 29th at Mackenzie Lodge.
Very cool.
Is that Fluff's Lodge? Mackenzie?
I think it is.
Oh,
And Charles and Timothy Smith.
got you. Well, Charles and Timothy
Charles
related?
comes on the show a lot. Yeah, they're brothers,
Oh. Well, of course they're brothers. They're both Masons.
and they look identical. Well, not identical, but they look pretty damn close. But they're not, you know, twins or anything. But they look a lot alike.
Well, Bearded Bacon, if you see Zachary Wyatt or Charles Smith or Timothy Smith, be sure you tell them hello. If you see Zachary Wyatt, just give him a big old hug. Just a big old hug. He loves those. And be sure you get some goat jokes ready for him because he loves goat jokes too.
Oh my God, you're so bad.
So did you get measured for your kilt yet, Dennis?
I did yesterday.
Yeah. Zach
Yeah, I've
says,
been
Zach
planning
says
to
you
for a
insisted
while.
on making it a mini skirt though. Not Zach. Jason was saying that.
Zach, don't you be throwing Zach into this.
Says
Zach is my pal,
he
man.
insisted on his kilt being a mini skirt. Like I don't judge Dennis, but I'm not sure that's how it goes.
That's because they couldn't make enough room for everything I had down there.
Joining the order of the Dingle Dangles.
That's right.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but that was cool. I'm excited about that. I can't wait to get it. I'm actually gonna have to get out in the sun and get my legs tanned so that I don't look like Jason when I put mine on. The only thing he's got going for him is he's got black hair, so
What's your goal
makes
for your
sense.
hair? You're looking like a hippie.
Hey man,
Maybe
Kurt
you are a
Cobain.
hippie. Do we need to have a talk?
Kurt Cobain,
Do we need to have intervention?
right? My my wife and daughter like it, so I don't care. I've had hair down to my butt before, and I've had it so short that you couldn't even make it move
You've had hair on your butt before? That's not nothing to brag about.
to
Man.
my
Oh,
butt.
okay.
Oh my goodness, that's how this is going tonight. I see you and Jason.
I guess so. Rebecca
What
says,
was awesome?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No.
He said he's,
No, let's
he's
see what he-
friends with Zach, and he initially met Charles. So, yeah, he knows them already.
Well, good. What I was gonna say is that brothers were telling me, and he may want to say something on here, but I don't know if he wants to. But brothers were telling me that and the reception part after the capping, they were saying that it was exactly what they were hoping for and exactly everything that Blue Lodge is not. And that they feel like they found their home.
That's
like
good.
I did.
I've heard similar things about other degrees in other bodies before, and usually I haven't seen your degrees, but usually what that means is that it was a lot more intimate, and people knew the rules, right? And it was actually initiatic, if that makes sense. Like it was actually impactful in some way.
Oh yeah, it definitely is in many ways in the Scottish Rite. That's the cool thing about it, is that it's not just the degrees are not just one storyline in itself continuing on. It's actually, it does take the one storyline from Blue Lodge and expand on it, but it also goes into um, the chivalric degrees, and then it also gives um, it also touches in on other religions. As you're going through it, you get a sense of the thoughts and ideals of other religions while you're doing it. And that's the cool thing, because it clearly, the Scottish Rite clearly makes it extremely clear that this is not just a Christian fraternity, that this is a fraternity of free men with freedom of thought and religion. And so it's very cool.
Cool. I'm going to do it sometime. One day. One day.
Yep,
sometime.
Someday when you're worthy.
I don't know that it'll ever happen. We're waiting that for the worthiness.
I can tell you, when God decides you're worthy, He's going to put you through.
Oh.
I brought him into it. I put the big man in it.
Nice. It's hard to argue with that now.
But I was thinking that I was thinking about this earlier today, and somebody was asking, how is it that y'all are able to retain so many good men in your Scottish Rite? Because other Scottish Rites aren't all the same. They don't, a lot of them are just doing enough to keep the doors open, basically. And I'm going to tell you, it's because we take the thought of the Scottish Rite being the University of Freemasonry to heart in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we do is centered around education and improving yourself. It's not about anything else. We do a little bit of fundraising, but it's not for, that's not our goal. We're not trying to feed the charity, right?
Yeah.
We're doing it because we want to give some, but that's not our goal. Our goal is education. Education of the mind and spirit.
You started talking about fundraising, and there's going to be a huge push for it at one of my lodges this year. And just to put it in context, the lodge is not financially viable anymore, right? Because they won't raise the dues where they need to be, and they think they're going to bridge that gap. And it's a substantial gap in a small town with fundraising, lots and lots and lots of fundraising. And so I'm not really excited to see how this year goes for them. I'm going to take a step back, to be frank, and just kind of watch it.
I was going to say, man, I wouldn't be able to do. I couldn't sit there and watch the priority being fundraising in my lodge. I couldn't do it.
I'm going to attend somewhat regularly at the stated meetings to listen and ask questions, right? Not to make a nuisance of myself, but to be the voice of reason, I guess. But I'm not getting emotionally involved in it, and I'm not being more active this year than I have to be, just because that's what they voted for, right? And so obviously they don't really want to hear too much of what I had to say, because they knew what they were getting when they voted for it. That's what they voted for. Lots of drama, and so I'm just going to step back. But I'm still not keep my mouth shut too much. So, what's up, Austin White? Glad you could make it here, brother.
Yeah, that's for me. It's kind of easy because I'm so busy traveling. I'm everywhere.
Yeah,
it's not so difficult for me to not concern myself with it.
Yeah.
Though I am going to be working on some committees for my lodge, because you don't have to be there to work on all the committees. You don't have to be there for the stated meeting to work on committees. So I am still supporting my lodge.
Yeah.
But I just have other commitments on the days of the stated meetings.
Yeah, it won't be hard to find other things that are more fruitful to focus on.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm not worried about that. But we talk a lot about improving lodges, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't have the buy-in, and if the lodge circles its wagons, it's time to take a step back, right? Masonic improvement is also about knowing what you can and cannot improve. It's about being realistic also, and I suspect a lot of improvements that we made are going to get rolled back, and so it's not giving up by any means, because I don't think it's worth giving up on. But there's a time you got to take a step back and just let things play out, because
Right.
and you and I kind of talked about this. I don't know if we talked about it in the Zoom before, but when we're talking about like all these things, all these changes, all these directions the lodge needs to go, I think a lot of people, when you're sitting in a lodge, they look at us and say, "Well, who are these guys? Right? Who are them? What makes them the expert? Why do they think they know better than we do?" Basically, and some of those guys are like, "I've been doing this for 30 years. You know, what makes you think you know better than I do?" And the fact is, we don't, right? However, we have consistently over a number of years reached out to leaders in the fraternity and asked them questions on what success in a Masonic context looks like, and overwhelmingly, without any deviation at all, it's the same principles, right? It's the same approaches, and so I personally am not the guru. I'm not the Masonic Messiah that just came down and said, "Do these things, and everything will be better." No, it's years and years of research that you and I have put in the work and have talked to these people, right?
Yeah, and it requires travel to do that.
It does. It requires travel, and a lot of these same guys, they're just locked in their own lodge, right? Like the worship master at that lodge I'm talking about. No one else in the district even knows who he is, because he never visits or goes anywhere. So of course you don't know what the best way to do things is. You don't travel. But my point is, sometimes you have to just let it play out, because you can sit there and beat your drum all day, but if they're not listening, they're not listening, and so you can go beat that drum somewhere else.
Yeah, and it all boils down to the investigation process. You know, like, so we started off this conversation with the 95% that we had going for us this reunion, and it's all about expectation and our vetting process on how we decide on who's going to be members. You know, when somebody walks in the door and you immediately give them a petition, even if you don't sign it, but you give them a petition, and that's setting a precedent that they're already going to be accepted, right? Why would you do that?
Yep.
Why would you make anybody feel like they're already going to be accepted before they go through the investigation process? The whole thing should be stringent and should leave a question in their mind. Am I going to get in? Am I going to make them wait at that telephone hoping that they get the call? Mm-hmm. You know, but that's not the way we're doing it, and therefore we're getting the mediocrity of our communities that are serving in our lodges, and our lodges become the mediocrity of our community. Simply put,
I can't tell you how many times I've encountered drama or heard about drama at the lodge level, or seen people leave the fraternity for reasons that would have been resolved if we took more time before we gave them a petition. Like, I can go show up to your lodge one time, smile, act sane, right? Not let my
that's how I made it.
Not let my ass show, right? If that makes sense. And get a petition, right? I can, but you can't do it for 6 months consistently, right?
Right.
Because eventually, it's your personality is going to leak out, or you're going to say something, and they're just going to say, "Hey, if that's really what you're looking for, you might check out this other lodge."
Well, yeah, and our vetting process for the KSA is the full year. And that's an appendant body. That's not Blue Lodge. So people don't show up all the time. They don't do the work all the time. They don't put in the what it takes to keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we're very careful on who we pick.
Yeah. See, that's what we do.
At least some of us are. Jason's.
That's what we do at my York Rite is, so like what you're talking about is kind of very similar to what I'm talking about, because we have the benefit we can invite people, right? Blue Lodge can't, but York Rite can, Scottish Rite can, and all the little smaller organizations within those, they can. And so that's what we do with the York Rite is we look at Blue Lodge Masons that are active, they don't create drama, and they'd be willing to go through the degrees for York Rite.
Well, I wouldn't make it.
And then for like AMD, what we're going to start doing is we're going to look even a finer filter, like who's coming to York Rite consistently and doesn't create drama and works best with everybody, and they're the ones that are going to come in too.
Well, see, I don't necessarily prescribe to that, because now if you really have a good solid York Rite body, then that's one thing. But you still have the members in the club that are going to just give a petition to anybody that wants to join York Rite because they're already masters, so they're already vetted, and so you still have those guys that are going to do that. That are going to invite the flakes and this and that. I don't necessarily believe it should be just the people that are showing up all the time when it comes to York Rite or when it comes to AMD, because a lot of people stop going to York Rite because it's just an extension of Blue Lodge, and they're not looking for that. They don't want that.
Yeah, if they don't
want to be a part of that. If
it's not providing value, then yeah, I agree. If the York Rite's not providing value, it has to. For any organization any body to be successful, it has to provide something that Blue Lodge is not. If that makes sense. So
exactly,
if York Rite,
exactly what I'm saying,
or even Scottish Rite,
and they've attached themselves too closely to the Blue Lodge, though. That's their big push, is that, oh, we're the natural flow from the Blue Lodge. Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Now, if all you're doing is steady meetings, like business meetings, yeah, why the hell would I go? Right? So you have to provide something with a little more value.
Yeah.
Someone named Fredo hopped on, asked a few questions, and retracted them all. The question was, before he retracted them, or she retracted them, was, what is the purpose of Freemasonry? I don't even know they're still on here yet.
That's fine. That's good. That's good information. That's good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, enlighten me, Dennis. What's the purpose?
The purpose of Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The purpose of Freemasonry is to bring enlightenment to our mind and spirit. That's it in a nutshell. And to meet on the level with other people looking for the same thing. And that's why, and going back to the vetting process, that's why it's important that you do vet them properly, because the same thing should be that they're looking for a challenge to their heart and mind. So the purpose of Freemasonry is to basically affect your heart and mind, so that you feel you have a stronger soul and a purpose to carry on the work within the world and make it a better place. That in my mind is what Freemasonry is all about.
That's good answer.
And it's not just about giving to charities or anything like that. It's actually being boots on the ground, making the world a better place.
Nice. I like that answer. Well, there you have it. Perfect answer right there.
Come on now. You want to add something. I know some of our guests would probably add something to it.
Hmm. The purpose of Freemasonry is,
That was off the cuff, by the way.
yes, is to leave the world a better place than it was when you got here. Ultimately, and
Right.
that's done through rites of passage on the individual level. Also, why it says eat green beans and fundraise, but that's the secret of Freemasonry. Austin, you just divulged the secret. But no, it's through initiatic experiences, and
Austin, you just took yourself down a notch. Sorry, buddy.
by association with other good men. There's a saying, if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right.
That's not usually the case in Freemasonry. You're not usually the smartest man in the room.
No.
Unless you're,
No.
well, there's a few brothers that probably are, but not most of us. And so through those rites of passage, and through associating with good men of strong moral character, and a very intelligent man, you inevitably grow yourself, and in doing so, you strive to make to improve as a father, as an employee, as a citizen, and every other aspect that you touch in your life. Also, White says y'all need some happy juice. Happy.
In hearing what
Actually,
you,
I have some happy juice. Thank you.
I'm exhausted from working still. And I want to add to that. I think that yours falls right in line with what I was saying. That was a nice add. And then on top of that, not only is it a rites of passage, but this is a model built around mentorship. If the apprentice, the fellowcraft, the master, if you think about that, the whole business model is built on mentorship. So we're supposed to be, as we mature in Freemasonry, we are supposed to enlighten ourselves to the point that we can ultimately pass it down to the next generation. And we can only do that if we challenge ourselves and do well, and then it is worth passing down to the next generation.
That's good. I want to add to what Dennis said. No, I'm just kidding. We're just gonna one up each other for the rest of this live, guys. That's all.
Exactly. Well, I just think that ultimately that is what it is. I mean, otherwise, why would we use the terms entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master?
Point.
It is a mentorship program, and as you are mentored, you become the mentor later on, and that's what helps develop good leaders, strong fathers, good men of character and integrity, with their head on straight, ready to be the boots on the ground for the world. I believe that.
Adam Olivier is here. Welcome, Adam. Glad to have you as always. Bitter Bacon says the purpose is to plant the seeds that will provide the shade for future generations, and I really like that. Jason Rockenberg says, no, it's just to take good men and make them better, Dennis. So.
Jason, you're going to be removed from this if you don't stop.
David Lawson has a few comments I want to touch on.
You and Austin need to just go have your own little conversation by yourselves. Green beans and making them better.
Man.
Okay, go ahead. Let's get to these other ones.
You keep talking crap to Jason, and you're going to have to start making your own spreadsheets.
Right.
Anyway, so David Lawson says, even Blue Lodge has to provide some value. I ask that a lot, but what do we have to offer for those that want to join our lodge? And then he also says, you talk about a rite of passage. The first rite of passage should be when the lodge deems a man worthy of receiving a petition to join. And I agree.
Yeah.
It's not a rite of passage, and it goes back to what we were talking about, Dennis. If some stranger comes in off the street and asks for a petition or how to join, and we give him one before he leaves that day, that's not a rite of passage. That's just a formality.
Exactly. You're taking that away.
I mean, I stand by 6 months to a year. If you ask
Right.
me, how long should a guy be coming to your lodge before you give him a petition? I won't hesitate. 6 months at a minimum.
Yeah.
6 months to a
If
year.
your
If
lodge
you
is
don't,
so unhealthy that you have to give them a petition for their dues right away, send them somewhere else because you're going to die out.
yep. And you don't know if you don't know by a year if he's a good fit for your lodge, then he just needs to go somewhere else. So 6 months to a year. And if he can't show up every time, or if he loses interest, then he's not a good fit. It's just straightforward. And we get bummed out because we don't get the conferred degrees on somebody. But so what? You're just, I mean, are you just throwing the stickers of Freemasonry against the wall to see where it sticks? No.
Right.
And so, yeah, I agree. That should be a rite of passage.
Yeah, that pretty much angers me,
Yeah.
that mentality.
Even Blue Lodge has to provide some value. As a lot, what do we have to offer to those that want to join our lodge? I wanted to revisit that because it's also important. If we're not providing value, aside, like once the guy petitions, he attends his first study meeting, and he just realizes it's a business meeting, right? Consistently, month after month, it's just a business meeting. What value is that providing? Nothing. It's not providing any value. Why would you pay dues? Why would you pay what you need to pay to keep your lodge solvent if all you're paying to do is come to business meetings? That's not fun. That's not providing you value. You're not learning. You're not growing. You're just
Well, I feel the
slinging
same
fish.
way if yeah, I feel the same way though if all you're doing is showing up to put on degrees, because that's not just what it's all about. There's if and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to compare it to Scottish Rite. Man, we have Zoom, we have Zoom education, we have in-person education, we have book studies, we have some deep thought education on Zoom coming up that we've got planned, as well as the Master Craftsman program. If you don't have multiple items supporting your vision going on, then you're not gonna provide the value to the men that are showing up. I don't think,
I agree.
in my opinion.
I agree. Also, Watt says, for me, it felt like it filled something missing in my life and brought me a new level of understanding of the world around me and how I can make my fellow men better through my example. He's talking about the purpose of Freemasonry. And
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Oddly enough, like Austin's a veteran. He was already a Mason before he retired. Like as soon as I knew I was leaving the military, I started looking for options. Like what can I find that'll kind of replace this camaraderie? And Freemasonry wouldn't hard to find because my dad's a Mason, and so it just made sense to me. Bearded Mason says he should be testing you guys. We're talking about the petitionee, right? Petitioner. He should be testing you guys out for 6 months also to see if your lodge is a good fit for him. And I don't think a lot of people
Yes.
understand that, right? I think for whatever reason we assume that all lodges are created equally, and they're not. Not every lodge has its own vibe. Some of them don't pass the vibe check, right? They have their own culture. They have their own things going for them, and their own things not going for them. And if, for example, and I've said this before, if someone came to the lodge and they said, "I really want to do a lot of fundraising," then I would probably direct them towards a local lodge that's what they focus on, because that's not what I focus on, right? And it's not what my lodge focus on. And you can say, well, you just said the Worship Master this year is going to really focus on fundraising and stuff. That's true, but I'm not going to bring someone in just because. How do I say this? That's not going to continue to be the norm, if that makes sense. So I'm going to bring them in.
Right.
In next year, in the next 2 years, he's got to push real hard, and then it's not going to happen anymore. So why am I going to bring him in if he's going to get burned out after 2 years? He needs to go to a lodge where that's what they that's what they're about, and everyone knows they're about, and they've been about it for like 10 years. Go to that lodge,
Right.
you'll enjoy it thoroughly.
Right.
Adam Olivier says, a stated meeting is not Freemasonry. What terrifies me most is that Texas Masons would disagree with that. I'm concerned about the future of Texas Freemasonry, especially the Grand Lodge system. Sometimes, Austin, not Austin, I'm sorry, sometimes, Adam, things have to get worse before they can get better, unfortunately. That's you weren't here for this, but that's why I'm stepping back from one of my lodges. Sometimes people just have to sleep in the bed they make, right, to realize it's not what they thought it was, and then you can come in and say, okay, let's try this now, because now we know that the approach that you were trying, the things that you were saying would work, do not work. So let's try the things that I have been saying will work. And I'm not necessarily so concerned about the Grand Lodge system. I don't know that we necessarily need it, but I'm not concerned about it either. But on the individual lodge level, if a lodge is and this goes back to what I was just saying. You could also take like a Darwinian mentality towards it. Survival of the fittest, right? If a lodge only focuses on stated meetings, right? No education, no value, the meals suck, and that's all they do. They're not going to be around in 10, 20 years. We're at that point, right? They could make it work for 50, 60, 70 years, but now we're at that point where it's not going to last any longer. And if they continue to practice that and call that their Freemasonry, then they will have to turn in the charter or they will merge. And
they were only able to keep it going for that long because they were riding the coattails of the money that was left in their lodges.
Yes, they were able to keep it going that long because the people that came before them knew what Freemasonry was.
They put in the work.
Yeah. And they were smart about their money. And now then you had a generation that did not know what Freemasonry was and are not smart about their money. And I'm sorry, but we got a lot of Masons in our lodges and across the state that are making financial decisions for lodge that can't even make smart financial decisions for their own lives. So why deciding how we should be doing things at our lodge?
That's concerning. Yeah, I agree. But ultimately, I'm going to do everything that I can to help Grand Lodge and support the structure of our fraternity, because I do love my fraternity, and do I think that Grand Lodge needs to be exactly what it is today? I don't think so. But I also don't think we could go without the stability or structure of bylaws or constitutions. And even though ours are way overgrown, but I don't think that an organization can survive if they don't have bylaws and constitutions and the laws to hold those accountable. And so while I don't know that it's going to look the same as what it looks like today in the future. I don't think it will at all. I'm pretty interested to know how that's going to look going forward. But I'm not that scared about it, because I know, Adam, you'll be around, I'll be around, Justin will be around, Jason will be around, Oscar will be around. We've got these brothers. Brother Lawson will be around if he's still on. I don't want to leave anybody out. I'm trying to make sure everybody is covered. I can't see the screen. Justin sees
about Caesar Rubio, who's on our chat now.
Hey, brother. But all of us are going to be around. So Freemasonry will be around. I don't care if Grand Lodge fails. Of course, I will support it all that I can and help it to shape into what's necessary for the future for us to thrive and keep our fraternity intact.
Yeah.
But I don't care if it fails in its current state. Because Freemasonry will still be there.
Yes. I want to kind of backpedal, just to be clear. I do think that we need to have some system of governance, like some form of Grand Lodge, right? Because otherwise you you start getting into like the lodges that do the hazing and things like that, which is not Freemasonry. Like I think there needs to be a unified direction for the lodges. I don't necessarily think they ought to do the same rituals or anything, but that's a whole other conversation. But ultimately, I think what I'm talking about is do we need a Grand Lodge with a law book this thick, or do we need a Grand Lodge with a law book like that? And I think ultimately this is what we need. We need something that's
Right.
that's a little less micromanaging, right?
I
Like
agree.
Dennis said, I will continue to support Grand Lodge and whatever
Yeah,
density of the law book, but
and help shape it to where it's going to be, because ultimately, as it does fail, it is going to need to be reshaped.
yeah,
So I am going to support our fraternity and try to help that along, and that way we're doing things right. If people want me to do that,
yep.
who knows?
Bearded Bacon
Currently, they probably
says I
don't.
would rather pay higher dues to do less fundraising and afford higher education within Freemasonry. I agree,
Yes.
and I've kind of realized that there are some brothers that are just 100% opposed to that. 100% opposed to that. 100% opposed to paying higher dues. They'd rather cover the difference with fundraising. Some of these brothers do well financially too. They just don't want to pay more. But if you're doing
That's because they
fundraising,
don't see the value in
if you're doing yeah, I
it.
agree. But if you're doing fundraising, you're relying on 4 to 5 guys to do all the work, all the work to pay the bills, so that 60 to 100 guys have access to a functioning lodge building, right? Should the dues are cut, the bills are paid and everything. That's not right. That's not right. The dues should be divided among the operating cost, right? Among the members,
Yes.
so that everybody
Yes.
pays their fair share. If you want to donate more, fine. If you can't cover it, fine. What a great opportunity for Masonic charity. But on the books and in practice, we need to cover our own bills. Cesar Rubio says we need to have more of these strong conversations. I agree. If you ever want Dennis or I to come onto your show, we'll be glad to have more of these strong conversations with you, Caesar. Hey, I enjoyed it. I enjoy Caesar's show, and I enjoyed our conversation
So
with
do
him.
I.
Like
So
it's
do
good
I.
stuff.
Yeah, I sure do.
If
I
you don't
do.
listen to Masonic Muscle, by the way, fantastic podcast. Be sure to check it out. Caesar's on there.
Yes.
It's his baby, and it is awesome.
And he's fit in body, but he's also fit in mind and spirit. So, it's the show is a little the title is a little bit different than what you would think it's going to be, or the what it actually is a little different than what you would think it would be by the title. But yeah, I think he's talking more in the minds of the lines of your the muscle in your skull.
He's
That's
talking. He talks about the same stuff we do, right?
yeah.
But he approaches it from different perspectives. But which I think we need. I think we need that, right?
Yes.
Because not everybody approaches the same thing. I mean, that's
It's the same
basic.
reason lodges should be well rounded.
Yeah, I mean that's basic teaching 101. You have to take different approaches, right? And so he provides a lot of value, but he's having the same conversations we are, just from a different approach, and I really appreciate what he's doing. Um, David Lawson says when he joined in '83, his lodge had 1,400 members. Today, after another lodge merged with them, they have 350, and only about 15,
After
15 are active. I'm curious. I'd be very
Wow.
interested to know how many are endowed and how many are not. Um, Austin White says we also have districts at 27 Masons, but somehow the lodges average 40 plus members.
We
Oh
I
yeah,
can tell.
because they're all members of the same lodges. Yeah. What are you
Do
saying?
what?
I would say because they're all members of the same lodges. Like they're members of every lodge in the district.
Right. The I think that our ratio is pretty good in Goliad. We have 80 members on the books, around 80, probably a little more now, probably closer to 100.
Yeah,
And
actually.
and at the last stated meeting I was at, we had over 30 members in lodge, and several guests as well.
I'm
So I
looking.
think we're doing pretty good.
I'm looking at my numbers right here, actually, real quick. Yeah, we have. Maybe it was a conversation we had. We have like 60 members at Hillsboro, and about 20 of which are actually dues paying. And so it's oh, here we go. We have 61 members on our roster, and 28 of them are dues paying members.
Well, but what his the last person's brother's statement was is that he had all those members there now with the merger 300 and he still only has 15 people showing up.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with with I got to say what's wrong with the lodge? It's great that you were financially viable to where somebody would want to merge into you, but what's wrong with it that there's only 15 members showing up in out of a 300 person roster?
Yeah.
That is concerning to me, and I would be having those hard questions with those 15 members. Are we doing the same old that nobody else wants to do
Yeah.
just to please ourselves? And I'm not dogging on your lodge, don't get me wrong, because I've gone through it with lodges as well, and those are the hard conversations you have to have.
Yeah.
If this is all we got, why?
Caesar says we've been spreading ourselves too thin for far too long. And what's interesting to me is the same issues they're having in California are the issues we're having in Texas, right? Because you could have that's what a lot of people don't realize. You could have the same conversations with a brother from California or a brother from New York or anywhere in between, and it's the same story, right? It's the same issues that are arising, and yeah, we are spreading ourselves too thin. And a lot of people are afraid that if they raise dues, people will just move to cheaper lodges. Well, that's fine. They probably will. They'll go to cheaper lodges, and when those when those cheaper lodges demise or merge, guess where they're going? Back to your lodge. David Charles Smith is here. He says, "Good
Or
evening."
home.
Yeah, or home.
Yeah, hey, Charles.
Charles Smith. Hope you are doing well. Yes, sir. David Lawson says most are endowed. He believes about 130 of those people are dues paying. And the last year they raised the endowment from 500 to 1,200. They sold two since then. He also says we provide no value. There are a few of us trying to change that, but it's hard to change their status quo. That's what the real issue is. It's this uphill battle. It's a constant uphill battle.
Right.
And it's very disheartening. And I'll tell you this from experience: when you're fighting that uphill battle, and you don't realize it, but there's a whole quiet minority that just kind of circles the wagons after a certain point, and
Right.
you have to let
Well,
that play out.
yeah, those are the ones that also, will let anybody in the door because they want more members to pay those cheap dues to keep the building open.
Yep.
They're it's sad to see that. It really is.
Yeah, I
This
agree.
is a disheartening topic.
I don't think it's disheartening. I think it's a realistic conversation. I don't think it's disheartening, but I think if we only focus on if we're not sitting around bitching, are we? I mean, we're not sitting around complaining. We're talking about we're looking at facts here, and I think that's a big difference. Like if we were just sitting around complaining, then we're no different than any past master sitting around at practice night, right? But we're looking at
Right.
facts here, and when you're being factual, when you look at the actual data, which you have to do, then you can say, what do we need to do to fix this? How can we prove it? But I think a lot of people don't want to look at the data because, like you said, it is depressing. Oh, this is sad. I don't want to have this conversation. Let's just play dominoes instead or something. Which, don't get me wrong, I love a
Right.
good game of dominoes, but we have to be realistic, and it's not always like rainbows and sunshine. But to get to that point, we have to slog through the murk a little bit. Um,
I think the what would help us tremendously is if we would stop um, marketing ourselves as so accessible.
I agree.
I think if we were to close the doors, kind of like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, right? If you shut the gates and everybody wonders what the mystery is going on inside, and when you have that initiate that thinks he's got the golden ticket, when he has that petition, he feels like it's the golden ticket that he's getting to go into something that not everybody can see, not everybody gets to experience. And then once he does get in, then we have to make sure that experience meets all those expectations that brother had, um, as a petitioner. Those are conversations you need to have with the petitioners to make sure that you're keeping the culture that you want in your lodge. Because once you start letting too many people in with with the same ideals, the culture of your lodge will shift
Yep.
to something else.
Yeah. Yeah. If you hold on a second.
I'm a part of a body right now that the culture is still there right now, but there's a couple of people that have come in that they may at some in some on some level, um, be the right kind of people to be there, but they don't have respect for the institution that they're in,
Mhm.
and so it causes an issue for me to enjoy my Freemasonry because we let those people walk in the door.
Yeah.
And so and this is one of the invitation bodies that I'm a part of.
The most successful lodges are the hardest ones to get into. And this is across the board. This is not opinion. If you look at the most successful lodges in Texas, they're the hardest ones to get into, right? And you can say, well, such and such lodge is raising like $100,000 a year doing golf tournaments and stuff like that. That's great. That's great. They are a very successful Elks Lodge or Rotary, but not really necessarily successful Masonic Lodge, right? They may
Right.
open and close with our ritual, but is that really Freemasonry? And
No.
so if you look like at actual Freemasonry, right, which is actual value being provided to the members, the people that join are actually improving themselves and becoming better men, right? They're the most difficult to get into. Okay? And if you look at the kind of people that we always say we want to bring into the fraternity, right? Like the doctors and the lawyers and the representatives and the people like that.
They don't want to waste their time with what we're doing.
They don't. They don't want to waste their time with almost that's all I didn't want to with people complaining, right? They don't want to leave their nice offices with the white ceiling tiles and the clean carpets and the
that
nice
they wear
painted
their
walls,
suits in.
that they wear a suit in, that don't smell like armpit, to go to a building that is that is sketchy looking, stinks inside, the carpet's nasty and ripped, and the ceiling tiles are yellow, to eat hot dogs and beans and cornbread. They don't want to join for that. That is
and
not
you're
what
afraid
they're
you're going to
looking
get
for.
your clothes dirty just sitting down to eat
Yes.
because the chairs have never been wiped
If you want to create an environment that will attract the kind of people that you say you want, then you know what you have to do. You know what you have
Right.
to do. You have to fix that place and make it presentable. Let me close my door.
Right.
1 second.
And that's the reality, is that many of us do know what we need to do, but we have the roadblocks of the wagons that Justin was referring to earlier. We have those obstacles that are in our way, and some of it's going to require attrition.
Yep.
But some of it, if you start investigating properly and doing the things that you can do, don't worry about what they're doing. Do what you can do. Bring in the brothers or the initiates that are going to help shift that culture.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that start now with what you can do and just focus on the people that you want to come into this fraternity, and try and prevent the ones you don't want to come in while this process, while you're waiting for natural attrition to take place. Do what you can do in that manner.
Yes. We got a lot of great comments tonight. Let's look at some of them real quick. David Lawson says, that's why I listen to y'all and others to try to find things to take back to my lodge and find some value from our members. Definitely appreciate that. Dennis and I are actually working on a presentation that will come up with some handouts. David, I would say, and I'm not putting anybody on the spot here, but if you really want to learn things that will provide value that you can take back to your lodge, and I'm not saying this just because we're hosting it, go to the summit. Do whatever you have to do and go to the Masonic Summit, because that is all it's about, is empowering the Masonic leadership in Texas to go back to the lodges and improve it. Right? They'll go back to the lodge and say, put up or shut up, basically. Either
and you meet and go ahead. I'm sorry.
You say we're going to fix this thing or we're not, and we just need to be done with it. And so, not putting anybody on the spot, but if you really want like a condensed, purified version of what we're offering here tonight in all of our conversations, you need to go to the summit, because those people that I was talking about earlier, those men that I talked about that have pinpointed the things that work, those are the guys that are coming, right?
And are implementing it. Yes,
and they're implementing it.
And not only that, but the brothers that are interested in the same thing are going to be there too. So you find your network.
Yep.
Part of Freemasonry is this huge network that we have around the world that we're all brothers on the same level, whatever. So we're all willing to help each other and all that. However, we act like we shouldn't be using that network for the good of ourselves and our businesses and this and that, which, I think is ridiculous. We should absolutely support our brothers that are, that we need certain things done. We need to support them if we can.
Yep.
But there's also the network of business-minded leaders that you'll meet at different conferences and stuff like that, to where when you're back at your lodge and you have a question, and it's not just the people that are speaking, it's going to be everyone that's around you. They're all of the same mindset. They want to be better. They want to be a leader. So you'll have these connections that you'll be able to reach out to and say, hey, how did you deal with this? How, what are you doing about this? Is this working for you?
Yep.
You make those connections. That's I can tell you that's why I have the information I have today, is from the people I have made connections with through Freemasonry. The brothers that we have coming to speak is through traveling and making those connections, and they're the same way. They do the same thing, and their lodges are better for it. Their grand lodges are getting better for it. So
connections are so powerful that this podcast would not exist. This YouTube channel would not exist. I would not be an active Freemasonry. I would have. When I walked away, I would never come back without the right connections, right? And so that's how powerful they are. Let's look at some more of the comments here. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at Caesar, because Caesar had some good comments here. I've got the latest numbers from Grand Lodge. He's talking about California, and we still have not stopped the bleeding. We should talk, Dennis. We won't be surprised at all what they're proposing to stop the bleeding. That's what happened with us. As soon as we realized the standard and provided clear expectations, our attendance went way up. We did it by making it hard to join. Yeah. Yes, Caesar. Man,
kudos to you.
Let us know. We'd be glad to have more conversations with you. Bearded Bacon says lodges shouldn't only be clean because you have an OES that meets there. There should be a standard and respect for Freemasonry. Yep. Yes. Adam says, interesting. Do y'all have a list of solid lodges in Texas that are good examples for other lodges? I know we can't make exact copies, but there has to be some lodges that are shining examples. Aside from what you guys are doing in College Station, I would say, I would say
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest,
number one.
Get back.
Fort Worth 148.
Fort Worth and oh my God, we talk about it all the time. What's that lodge, dude? I love you. Wow.
St. Albans.
No, St. Albans in College Station. Oh my gosh, I just brain farted. It's just north of Austin, San Marcos. San
San
Marcos is
Marcos.
doing a good
Oh
thing.
yeah, San
Bring me a new one.
Marcos.
Where you
Well,
at?
and
Bring me a
there's a
new one.
couple of lodges in Austin
Bring me a
that are
new one.
doing good things. Let's see. Laredo does good things,
Laredo.
and Ruben is going to be master this year, Brother Bazan, and he's going to do great.
Yeah.
But Laredo has um, a phenomenal size in membership and activity within that membership. Those guys, they like to work hard and play hard, and that's key, man.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to travel, like if you're in College Station, because I can't really name any in the area, right? But aside from yours, because St. Alban and Sol Ross, we were actually talking about your building in our last members only conversation, and I don't think Dennis has been there, but I am thoroughly impressed with what you guys are doing in College Station. And in fact, St. Albans, my visit to St. Albans is kind of what brought me back to Freemasonry and what got the show going eventually. So definitely good stuff going on there. But yeah, definitely Fort Worth,
Oh,
the 148,
St. John's 51, St.
St.
John's 51 in McKinney.
St. John's
That's where I was
51,
raised, and it's still strong.
Hillcrest. What's the one in San Antonio at the Scottish Rite you're always talking about? That's so good.
Alamo Lodge, Alamo 44.
Oh, a Union. What about
Yes.
Union? Onion Creek.
Perfect Union is doing
Perfect
some
Union.
good stuff, but but I they do a lot of good stuff, but I haven't been there enough to put them on that list.
But if you're
I'll be
asking
going
for,
back there. I'll be going back there in August though. But I love the brothers there. But they're also members of all these other lodges too, so I know them from there too. So it's kind of Triune is doing some extremely awesome things right now in San Antonio. They really are.
but if you're asking for like a list, we don't have a list. A list would probably get us in trouble. So we don't have a list. Because a lot of people will be like, why are we not on the list? Or why is this lodge on the list? They do this and this and this.
Right.
So there's no list. But if you ask me, I'll be happy to tell you. Bearded Bacon. Bearded, did we meet at Temple Lodge? Because he says, I was impressed by Temple Lodge. Worship Master Jeremy S. seems to be running a tight ship. Their building was clean. They had additions in their dining room, and it was oppressive and used by the community. They do have a very nice building. Like Temple Lodge does have a very nice, like their dining room is very impressive. It could easily be used by like the city council or something. It's so nice. So yeah, they got great things going on. David Lawson says he can't make it to the summit because your daughter is getting married on that date. Very inconsiderate of her to pick the same date as the summit, but I guess we'll give her a break.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Bearded Bacon says they have monitors and TV screens on both sides of the lodge. Yeah, they got it going on at Temple. They got good stuff going on. William Batters is here. He says, Perfect Union. Come on, God. We were just talking about Perfect Union before you hopped on. It's your fault for being late. He says they initiated 20 people this year and raised 5. Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily constitute good practices.
Yeah.
Come on now. You know better, William. Now you put it out there. Now you gotta put it up and prove it to us that you're doing it right.
All right, Bearded Bacon. I remember now. All right. Okay, I got you now. He and I and went out for dinner after. Okay, I know who you are now. Okay, awesome. David also says, this is where I feel the Grand Lodge fails the subordinate lodges. They know who's doing well and how they're doing it. Why don't they share some ideas with the rest of us so we can take advantage of them? Because whenever Grand Lodge comes in and tells people how to do things, people roll their eyes.
Yep.
Like well, first of all,
and that's what officer leadership training is for, is to give best practices for the mechanics of the lodge. It really is.
And oddly enough, despite the fact that you could say these lodges are successful and they're doing these things, and these lodges are dying and they're doing these things, it's still highly subjective. It's still highly subjective. You can say these lodges are failing and they're doing this, but maybe they just need to do more of it. And I say that because really, you say Grand Lodge should swoop in and say do this and this and this, but it really depends on who in Grand Lodge is looking at these lodges and saying this is good and this is bad.
Right, right. That's the problem, and that's where we can't put too much on Grand Lodge to fix the problems of Freemasonry.
Grand Lodge,
It's really a grassroots level repair. It's
yeah.
not something that Grand Lodge can do.
There was something I read some time ago, and it kind of struck me, but I don't necessarily disagree with it. But we don't do it now. The role of Masonic lodges is to make Masons, right?
I'll be right back.
The role of a Grand Lodge is to make Masonic lodges. And I say that because Grand Lodge doesn't really do that anymore. We don't really make lodges anymore. And so where I'm going with this is that if you're looking for Grand Lodge to swoop in and say do this and this and this, it's not really in their wheelhouse. It's not really their role to say do this and this and this, right? Grand Lodge is not the Masonic Messiah. It's not going to swoop in and save your lodge, nor should it. But what the members themselves should do is educate themselves and look at successful lodges to try and emulate that. We can't rely on Grand Lodge because Grand Lodge has its own issues, right? And it's focused on those. We can't rely on Grand Lodge to save us. We have to save ourselves. And like I said earlier, it's Darwinian. It's survival of the fittest. If you look historically, most lodges today, around early 1900s, there's kind of like a shift. And what I mean by that is most people started going from small rural communities into larger rural communities, and then eventually, around the 1950s, they went into like urban communities. But around the 1900s, there was probably 3 times as many lodges as there are today. And you could look at your minutes around the 1900s and see that. It's speaking from experience, like one of my lodges has had like 10, maybe 15 small rural lodges merge into it around the 1900s, right? And that's where I'm going with this is it's survival of the fittest. The healthier lodges are still around, right? They stood around longer, but the least healthy lodges merged. And it's what we're looking at again today. We're in another one of those periods where we have these lodges that are healthy and unhealthy lodges, and they're going to have to merge. And Grand Lodge could say, do this and this and this and this, and this will fix your lodge. Some lodges may adopt some of them, but most lodges, for some reason, a lot of brothers, like anytime someone from a position of authority says this is what you should do, they want to do the opposite. So that's not really unfortunately the best way to solve things. Let's see.
I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference in healthy lodges, financially, and strong lodges.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need to make sure we remember that, because you can have a good bank account, and if you're not doing what Freemasonry was actually supposed to do, then I wouldn't call you a strong lodge.
Yeah. And I personally, like, we talk about a big law book, right? But really, despite having a big law book, Grand Lodge is pretty hands off, and I appreciate that. I appreciate leadership that is hands off, and what some people want is like a more hands on approach, and I don't know that's what's best. I think we should leave it hands off and allow lodges to, if anything, I think it should
Sink
be
or
more
swim.
hands off. Yeah, sink or swim. Sink or swim.
Sink or
and
swim.
that's where I was really going with all these lodges that merged.
We need to force merge. Yeah.
It was sink or swim. Like, if you look historically, like early 1900s, late 1800s, Grand Lodge was little lodges formed left and right, and it was sink or swim, right? And if you sunk, you merged or demised. And really, I think we should go back to that approach, sink or swim.
Right.
But Cesar Rubio says the problems are eternal, and that's really what I'm getting at. It's a way more succinct way of putting it. Barry Bacon also says you go back to the big law book. Lao Tzu said that many laws make many criminals, and that's true. That's true. But the problems are internal. Grand Lodge is not your Jesus. It's not your Masonic Jesus. He's not going to come in and just forgive you of your Masonic sins, and every lodge is going to just smooth with no effort for the rest of the days. That's not the role of Grand Lodge.
Right. Well, and now was this David that said that made that statement originally?
Good statement. Oh,
That Grand Lodge
yeah, that was David
to
Wilson.
help.
Yep.
Okay. David, I just want you to know this is I'm what I'm gonna say is not in regards to you personally. What what bothers me the most about lodges that want to be saved by Grand Lodge is that they don't plan on fixing anything on their own. So after they're saved, what's going to happen but just have another slow deteriorating experience. So it really has to be grassroots for that very reason, because if the brothers aren't already doing the things necessary to make their lodge better, you know, I commend all the lodges that have speakers come in and talk, especially when there's going to come in and talk on the hard topics that you don't have between each other, because then they can be the scapegoat and it puts everybody else to task to think about it. But I also think that lodges should have solid education from the membership to where the members take turns. It's not the same person all the time. The members take turns researching their own information, learning about it, and then presenting it to the lodge as well, because then they become better in mind and spirit at the same time. And then you're really challenging the craft and putting them to work, putting them to labor. So I think that having the mentality of Grand Lodge coming in and fixing everything, and I've often thought that way, and that's why I'm speaking on this, because I've often thought that way. And it wasn't until about 3 months ago that I really changed my mind about it, because um, they can come in and fix it. Just like the person on welfare, you can give them that welfare check. It's not going to make them go to work the next day.
Yeah. And I've seen people,
I mean, and I'm not saying that welfare is bad, because I know there's some people who really need it, but I'm talking about the people who abuse it. And we are in the situation we're in right now because of people in our lodges who have abused our lodges and not taken responsibility for their own lodges. And that's why I use that as reference. That I just wanted to make that clear.
I've read
and
where people have said before that Grand Lodge should come in and give every lodge like a set amount of money to help offset or fix the problems or whatever.
Improvements,
whatever. Yeah, but if you're giving, and this goes to people too, like you see people that win the lottery and they're worse off financially. Oh my God! Hold on a second.
Yeah, I know exactly what his point is. People that win the lottery that end up being bankrupt in a couple of years because they don't know how to manage the money. They didn't. They shouldn't have. They should have never had the money because they didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, and so and it's the brothers that are making the decisions, the financial decisions, right? And this goes back to what I said earlier, where you have brothers making financial decisions that can't even take care of their own finances. So yeah, if you give very large $10,000, well, that's great, but are they going to use it wisely or screw it up? Most lodges probably screw it up. So why would you lose the money on that? Why would you do that?
Right, and that money that Grand Lodge has that people think they have, that's coming from the lodges. So you're asking all the lodges in around Texas to support this one lodge that doesn't want to do their work. I say let that lodge fall to the side and merge with another lodge that does want to do the work, that does want to put it in. That was a bit harsh. I can be harsh sometimes. I'm tired too. We had a.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
hear you now.
Oscar has to go. Charles has to go.
What the?
What?
Y'all take care, brothers.
What the what? I was gonna say it's been an hour and a half. We should probably wrap up.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't hear you, so we can't do that now.
I just said it.
But no, that's okay because I am pretty tired. We had a very successful reunion, and it stems and the support that we've had in San Antonio directly uh, goes back to knowing the vision of your organization, knowing the culture, and making all your events built around that culture. Our culture is education. We're the University of Freemasonry, and everything we do has education in it, and so it strengthens us because the people that come into our valley, that's what they're looking for, and so they stay after they join. They stay and they participate. So think about that with your lodges in what your culture and vision is. And first you gotta change that culture of being a welfare state to being a capital. I well hate to put it that way. So instead of being a welfare mentality to being a prosperous, financially uh, savvy, financially savvy business mentality, and then also throwing in the other things of Freemasonry to back that up, the actual Freemasonry part to back that up,
You
to
gotta run
support
your
the
lodge like a
business.
business,
Yeah,
wholeheartedly. Awesome.
yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Dennis, for hopping on, and thank you everybody else for listening through this evening. And we'll
Why,
see
thank
y'all.
you, Justin. Thank you,
Oh,
Justin, for hopping on
you're most
eventually.
welcome. You're most welcome. But we'll see the rest of y'all next Sunday. Hopefully, I should be back from vacation. We should be able to do it. So I'll see you guys then.
Yeah, I need to set up some interviews too.
Yep. Let's,
Yes, we will see y'all then. See all the live brothers next week. Keep it between the points. He's a goober, but he's my goober.
uh,